We are going to bypass introductions, professional bios, and things like that. I want to redirect you back to the Eventbrite detail page there, and you can read all about your fellow panelists. We're going to start with Ms. Owens from Baltimore. Please give us a little bit more about yourself, and let's dive into the first question. How are residents coping with adverse effects of climate change and environmental injustices from your lens and point of view? Welcome, Selena. The
Yes,
floor is yours.
thank you. Hello, yes. I'm with the Historic Oliver Community Association. I'm on the board. And one of my passions, just as an individual and fellow board member, are environmental things in our community. Where I live, it a lot of times people call it a concrete jungle. And so several years ago, I went on the path of trying to increase our tree canopy in the community because, again, as a concrete jungle, as they call it, it could get very hot. The temperatures are very hot in the summertime. And so basically, we partnered with fellow organizations, environmental organizations that help with tree plantings. So I would say over the past about 5 years or so, 6 years, we've planted about 600 trees. And that obviously will help cool the community, mitigate the impacts of, the heat, coming from the concrete in the community, help bringing down energy bills, and also help impacting health outcomes, because just the studies show that in urban environments that incidents of emergency room visits are much higher in urban communities during the summertime because of the heat. So those are some of the things that we're doing in our community, among many other things.
Wow, very interesting. And as we are listening to each other's responses, let's be thinking of let's be comparing and making some parallels between both cities. Dar es Salaam and both Baltimore are booming and bustling with a lot of tourists, visitors, local residents, everyday living, high traffic cities, constantly developing, gentrification, a whole lot happening in the name of development. So you speak of things that I definitely can identify on this end. Tell us, please, what are some strategies that are helping to build the resilience, and wrap us up and take us into some visions that are being shaped for a more just and sustainable future based on what you just presented? How do we see that practically playing out as citizens, as residents in our communities, and specifically from your point of view?
I would say number one would be education, because I think, well, in my community, and I'm not sure how it is in Tanzania, but we get a lot of pushback from tree plantings, for various reasons, but we do get a lot of pushback from older residents. So one of the things that we try to do is more education, I think people know the basic impacts of trees and the benefits, but from a broader level, sometimes it's not always, really known, so one of the most important things is just to educate the community on all the valuable impacts, of why it's so important, and how it can, be more devastating not to have the trees. The other thing is, I would say, forming partnerships and working with other organizations, because it is a huge undertaking. And so just knowing the value of working with different partners, who are experienced in various different areas. Did I answer your question? I think I missed one.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. As far
Okay.
as what strategies are helping to build resilience, you talked about education as part of
Hmm.
that being a strong pillar in
Yes.
raising awareness. And with that said, let me ask you, as part of that future vision,
Hmm.
sustainably speaking,
Hmm.
can I ask, what was the root, or what is the reason, would you say, for that community who resisted? I know you said they needed to be made aware, but what was their understanding? Can I ask?
Sure. So a lot of older people, one of the, concerns was, the tree roots, because the type of environment that we live in, the trees are very close to the house. So, one of the complaints was that, oh, the tree roots are getting to my pipes. Now, from what I've learned in my own research, is that, you know, um, from what I've been told is that if roots get into the pipes is more than likely because the pipes were already compromised, because they say that tree roots find water. So if it's searching for water and it found it near your pipes were probably leaking. That's one of the things that I've learned. Whether or not how true that is or not, but that's one of the things that we try to use to say, hey, well, and then the other thing too, like, we're more educated now than, when they were planting trees years ago. So, we look at the types of trees that you would plant in an urban environment. So that's one of the things. And then we also try to do more native, plantings as well. But some of the other arguments were that some people felt like, oh, people can hide behind a tree, like a criminal can hide behind a tree and, jump out and, hurt someone. And then another argument has been about the tree leaves, like the inconvenience of the tree leaves, because, obviously they have to be cleaned up. But the thing about it too is that when you have a tree pit, and in urban environments, some communities, in Baltimore may have more trash issues as well. So the tree pit also catches more trash. So then it does just create, that bit of a problem. And I think that the city needs to do a better job of also of letting people know what their responsibility is, because again, it's like more of a shared, the sidewalk is more shared as public domain. So even though it's in front of your house, it's not like completely yours, but it's partly the city. So a lot of residents don't necessarily see it as their responsibility. So it has to be education all the way around, and unfortunately, I just don't think the city has done a great job in terms of educating, um, the community about, what their responsibility is. And then again, just the benefits of trees and stuff. We as community residents have to try to do that when I think that that's part of the city's job as well, to educate the residents about different initiatives that are being set forth.
Absolutely. That educational piece sounds like a solid middle ground,
Mhm.
to bring some balance and solution on, and mutual agreement in the community. So
Mhm.
I appreciate there are a lot of points there that I know we can touch on. I know you didn't have a lot of time today, but thank you for jumping in there. And for whatever time you have left, please,
Sure.
feel free. I want to
Mhm.
ask if anyone has any points to make or questions for her before she has to leave. Please chime in. Floor is open.
And if I could add one last thing,
Sure.
in terms of the education piece, because again, we work with these nonprofit organizations that, like I said, do the tree plantings. That's what they do. And so what part of the job is, once you have this initiative, you go out and you door knock and say, hey, we're planting trees. And again, because we know the objections that we're going to get, one of the things that I suggested, because it was just something that I saw that was not done, by the city, who had this, the city and the state who had like, this law out there where they were trying, or not a law, but an initiative that they were trying to plant a certain amount of trees by, let's say 2030, I believe, So this was part of an initiative that they had to fulfill. But we as community residents, again, these organizations partner with us. And then we go out. But again, there was no education. So one of the things that we included in our project, because it was grant funding that needed to be had to get the trees. So a part of that grant funding, and when I say education, is that I insisted that we do some flyers, and on the flyers, we actually call it the benefits of trees. And so we laid out everything about, like, these are all the benefits of it, just so that, again, we know that we're going to get pushback, but and we're not going to be able to talk to every resident as well. So we just did this big flyer. And one of the things that we try to do is connect with the children, like in terms of, because you do get a lot of people that are very youth, they love the youth. Everyone loves the youth. Everyone is always speaking of how important it is, for our children, that we care about the children. So that was one of the center focuses on the flyers, was that, the trees we need trees for our kids. Our children need this. They need it for the mental wellness that it provides, for that, physical wellness, among many other things that trees provide. This is what, we're doing this for our children, So that was one of the things we did as well, not just the regular old knocking on doors, do you want a tree? But we also tried to promote it, which I wish that was a citywide effort, that people heard that all the time. Then that way you would, hear those objections less and less. So that was one.
Bus stop posters,
Yes,
MTA sign
absolutely. Yes,
is
absolutely.
absolutely,
Yes.
absolutely. Well, I appreciate you, and of course, and we need trees also for food because we got some folks on here growing food and vacant lots.
Yes.
So, yeah, we need all the trees we can get out
And,
here.
and
Thank you so much,
Amber,
Selena.
can I just interject? This is
Sure.
Lynn. This is the community where I live. Selena is one of my neighbors in Oliver in East Baltimore. And also, that part of the city is also known as a heat island. There's not a lot of green in that part of the city. And so on an average summer day, it's at least 10 degrees warmer, somewhere between 10 to 15 degrees warmer in our neighborhood in East Baltimore than it is in other parts of Baltimore. So the trees also bring much needed shade. And, with the extreme heat, it really impacts people's health. And so that's a big issue as well.
Very interesting, guys. We can spin off from this. Anyone jump in? Baltimore, Dar es Salaam, if you can relate or have a question. Welcome, Carrie. Good to see you.
Hi. Hi, everybody.
Hey,
Really love
Carrie,
the
you want
work.
to jump on in there?
Yeah, for sure. So I really love the work that you are doing. I think something that's really important is like public opinion and public morale around a matter, especially the sector or the space that we're in. A lot of people say like it's not on a lot of people or leaders' priority list, but like getting and building the priority from the grassroots community level is really important. So I'm wondering just if you could speak to some methods, is what like researchers would call it, on how you are leveraging education to create public morale and public opinion on environmental issues so that you can then leverage that power to um, move leaders, whether it's in government, the nonprofit space, the business space.
Great question.
Okay, and that question was for me.
Yes, yes, because
Okay.
you seem to have it under
Okay, okay.
control.
Okay. And I'm sorry, could you just sum it up again real quick? Forgive me. Could you ask the question once more?
Yeah, I mean, there's a rationale behind the question. The rationale behind the question is like thinking about how to get public leaders, public and private
Okay.
leaders to prioritize sustainability, clean energy,
Okay.
climate change, environmental justice. And when you think
Yes.
about, moving decision makers to action,
Mhm.
in our case, a lot of times it comes from public morale and like
Mhm.
community sentiment, right? And
Yes,
the
yes.
perceptions of the people that move them to make decisions. And so it seems like
Hmm.
you have it figured out on how to leverage education to move hearts and minds of
Hmm.
people toward the
Hmm.
direction you want them to go. And so I
Okay.
just kind of wanted to understand, maybe is there a strategy that you have? Are you
Okay.
documenting this methodology?
Okay.
Because
I see.
it's really important in this space.
Okay, great. Exactly. Yes. And what I would say, I wouldn't say that I haven't figured out, but I appreciate that, I do know that how important education is. And, just from the ground, level, foots on the ground level, that was one of the strategies that we tried to do, like I said, but like as you mentioned in terms of the leaders, in legislation and stuff like that. That's very important because they're the ones who can really help move the needle, and I think that that's where more work needs to be done, and maybe more strategizing because it is still very, because we do have a lot of other organizations organizations that I've worked with, and I know that those are some of the initiatives that they do. They try to work directly with the politicians to try to move things forward. And even they have challenges, and so I think that, so from my point of view, the way I see it is that, more work has to be done in the community to have the community show that this is very important to them, or for the residents and constituents to speak out about it, because just from speaking just from a leadership point of view, sometimes they feel that that's not the priority of, the community, if the community is not really speaking out about it, so I think that, if we just continue to, educate the community and, have those voices, amplified, and heard more, then I think that then the politicians will listen. But just coming from as a leader, they still feel from their point of view as leaders that, oh, this is not that important. But I think that if community, residents, and even kids, teaching kids and having them speak out about it, how important it is to them, I think that then they'll start to listen.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Very much so. We want to hear from you, Karma. And really quick, I would like to ask you, Selena, is that could possibly be one of the spin-off conversations that we may have to have deeper dialogue in the future? Is this something you would be willing to come back to and help us understand more of that methodology? It was a great question, because whatever was happening there in Baltimore, honestly, is a plug and play. Whatever's happening here in Dar es Salaam, we can be figuring out the different methodologies and exchanging that across borders, right? Across seas. And so, yeah, great question. Thank you so much. Karma, jump in there.
Hi everybody. Thank you, Ms. Owens, for all the great things that you're doing in Baltimore and everything that you're speaking about. My question, you spoke a little bit about the importance of engaging the youth in your projects and everything that your organization is doing. How are you educating the youth and keeping them engaged?
So again, my role, I'm a community leader, so I, am on a board of a community association. I personally haven't directly worked with our children, on this initiative. I worked on other initiatives with kids, but not on this specifically. So my thing more so, in the role that I'm in, and just the type of leader is just trying to maybe work with the schools more so, and again, I've worked with the schools, on other initiatives, but not this specifically. But I think in terms of engaging children, that's probably the best way, is to, try to work with the schools, directly, or some other type of youth organizations, that particularly a youth organization that, have children, work on projects that, that talks about a particular issue, and maybe doing projects, like for instance, I would say, have kids work on a project, about educating the community about the value of, our environment, like why it's so important, because again, just from my experience and what I've seen, when kids talk, people listen, they really do. And so again, working with the schools or other youth organizations, and particularly having kids do, and particularly with social media, I think, even doing having them do some kind of public service announcement over this, issue, where it could be put out on social media, or a project where they're, doing some type of promotional campaign, for, and have them come up with, what best ways do they think, they could reach the community and their peers, because we know also that children, when they learn and they're passionate about what they're learning, they go home and they teach their family as well, and their family listens. So, yeah. So youth are a very, very big part of it.
Thank you.
Hey, guys, this is Monica Cooper. Can y'all hear me?
Welcome, Carrie Boo, Monica. Jump on in there.
Hey, good. Thank you. First, let me apologize. I'm actually at this community lending event because I'm trying to constantly make sure that I keep funding for this work. and getting funding for the work can be really challenging. But in terms of the youth, a few of the things that we actually got planned now that we finally got this funding that we have been waiting on, we figured like there's a unique way of getting young people involved with climate justice and environmental justice and getting them to learn it. So we had planned out to do like getting them to be a meteorologist for a day. So what we'll do is we'll get them dressed up, put little clothes on them so they can look professional, like an Al Roker or somebody that's on your local channels, and get them to study meteorology and do like a presentation in front of a green screen, and we'll videotape them and everything. We figure that would be fun and a good way for them to get involved, and they'll be active, and then they can put their professional clothes on and their suit jackets and get dressed up and actually be a meteorologist for a day. Because for me, with children, you gotta kind of give them activities that's fun to them, that they want to participate in, and you trick them into learning. Like you gotta trick kids into learning, because sometimes they're not interested if you just go straight to them and say, "Hey, the planet's heating up, the water's rising, this happening." They look at that stuff as science. They look at it as boring, and they don't want to hear it. So one of the things we got planned, particularly for this last bit of funding that we have, is to do the meteorology for a day and get them involved in that way. The second thing that we plan to do is we plan to do a camping trip at like Deep Creek, where we would take them out into nature, and we will have professional people with us and get them to actually communicate and talk, because our kids, as much as we want them to get involved, they also have a lot of issues and stuff that they're going through at home. So you gotta kind of address that like at the same time. The same time that you're getting them involved, you gotta address all of the other issues that's going on in their lives. And when you put them in like a safe space, they'll feel comfortable to communicate and to talk while they're out in nature, getting grounded, taking their shoes off, walking on some grass. Because in the city, a lot of the children don't have as much appreciation for nature because they're not around it. In the city where we're from, we're around concrete, blacktop, and that's it. Bricks, cement. There are no trees. Where I grew up in West Baltimore in Sandtown, they actually took down all the trees because they said they can't see the guys that's hiding their drugs. So the Baltimore City Police Department was instrumental in helping to get our canopy. Our streets used to be lined with trees. They had one tree in West Baltimore on Riggs Avenue. Tree had to be at least 100 years old. The tree was huge. You couldn't even put your arms around it. It was so huge. I wish that tree was still there, because a lot of the old timers used to sit under that tree and they would play chess and checkers and stuff like that. So that's all I wanted to add, concerning the youth and getting them involved, and some of the approaches that we take, the Maryland Justice Project.
Awesome, Monica. That's so dope. Selena?
Well, I was just going to piggyback off of her comment, about, being a concrete jungle, but, and the tree situation. I just wanted to give an example of a time that we were out door knocking, asking people, did they want trees? And, again, I mentioned about how the seniors always push back. And this one particular time, there was a senior out there, and her grandson was nearby. He had to be about 13, maybe 13 years old, 12 or 13 years old. And so we were like, hey, we're planting trees. Do you want a tree? And she was like, and you could tell she was about to say no, like she was like, no, she was shaking her head no. And her grandson was like, no, yes, we want trees. We need trees because it's hot out here, And if you saw the look on her face, like, and to me again, and that's why I was saying earlier why, how, people listen to the kids, because like obviously what he said made sense. And then it seemed to also soften, because it seemed like she's, immediately became more receptive to the idea of wanting trees, because he was like, yes, it's hot out here. We need trees, So again, that's why I know that the youth would, are very, very important in this role.
Absolutely. And even for youth development, we talk about youth being especially here on the continent. You know, the youth are considered up to what age? Correct me, guys, if I'm wrong, but I think 23 or 24, just for the sake of developmental purposes, you know, as far as having an adult brain. So imagine being a university student, you know, or just imagine, I can't fathom not having any trees around. I was born in Brooklyn, New York. I know what the concrete jungle looks like, what it feels like. But by the time we moved to Maryland and saw all the greenery, you know, that's just I can't see, I can't imagine not living in that type of environment. So I would like to hear, please, anyone from Tanzania jump on in on any of the points that we've been mentioning. I know we've got creative artists here. If you want to speak to how maybe creative artistry might be used to promote, you know, or encourage the youth in your generation. I know we have community service members here cleaning up the beach. Yashara, who's a fisherman, you know, do you guys utilize community service to bring the youth along and help to raise awareness? Anyone want to chime in? The
I can
floor
go.
is open. Yes.
Um, First of all, I think that the youth needs more engaged than anything else because they're the most important piece in the puzzle that needs to get this thing done. So here in Dar es Salaam, I see that it really reflects because I grew up here in Dar es Salaam where like I see a lot of trees. Well, trees are not really a problem here, but also the issue that is rising right now where trees are being cut down to make roads, trees are being cut down to make charcoal, to make a living. This is just becoming a whole issue where I feel like really kids needs to be involved, especially in clubs and also as you say, like taking them into account, taking them to learn, trick them into something that is fun, and also make them get engaged more, so they will also see this as important a piece of puzzle. I think Grayson is also a good example that if he also I think uses his creative art of dance to somehow make some interesting messages that can be passed down to make it as a learning way to for the kids and also other people just to pass down the message how important this is as well. So it's really nice because yes, I see some pictures here of Grayson, his art, and yes, so this should be passed down. This should be shared, and we should make more engagement to the youth, and also they should know this is also a responsibility. You know what? Here, I feel like it's an issue of a habit in every house there should be a habit where people a family could see that they need to have trees, they need to take care of the environment. It is a part of what really makes life possible. So yes, I think it really relates. What you're doing is nice, and I can pass the mic to somebody else.
I would like to ask you really quickly before you go, Solomon. Can you share maybe how some residents in Dar that you're aware of in your neighborhood or your community, either your work or residential community, how are they coping? And share what are some of the adverse effects of climate change and environmental issues that injustices that you can see, and perhaps share any strategies, any practical solutions that are being implemented. Can you touch on that a little bit, please?
Yes, yes. So, well, this is a whole, I would say, a new thing because really environmental changes, environmental like climate change is not really being talked about. It's not really being people are sharing or knowing what's really going on. So a lot of people don't really know even if there's a climate change or even if it's a big deal that the climate is changing. So there's a lot of awareness that needs to happen, especially here in Dar es Salaam, Tanzania. And I feel like the most important way is because you know what? There's no such a thing as not having the youth getting involved and not knowing what's not going on. But if you get the youth involved, they will know what's going on. So I will feel like if we have clubs going on here, like, well, you can gather a few people, few neighborhoods, community building, just to exchange knowledge on how to take care of the environment, what should be done, like what is going on in Baltimore, like knocking door to door, asking if people they need trees. That'll be nice, giving out trees to people. That'll be one of the ways that could also make awareness. Maybe you give them a tree, you invite them to a club, you ask them and share with them what's really going on. And that will be a very good way for interaction for people here to really see and understand what's really going on.
I appreciate that great insight. Thank you so much, Solomon. And we're having a real organic conversation tonight. Yes, we have some three major questions that we're looking to answer, but this doesn't mean that you can't jump in. Please feel free to jump in, share, piggyback, ask questions before people have to start logging off. Loiben, welcome back. Good to see you again. Zach, anything you'd like to share? Laurel, floor is open, guys. Baltimore, we'd like to continue to hear from you as well. Welcome, not just to our panelists, but to our listening audience. The floor is also open to you as well.
Perfect, thank you. So I was actually appreciating the previous speaker, and I'm also working very closely in the climate space here in Tanzania, East Africa, and Africa at large. And I also did environmental health sciences, and I would say awareness is still very low, especially amongst young people. And residents, especially in vulnerable communities, are, coping through a mix of resilience, innovation, and community solidarity, something that I would really like to appreciate. In places like Tanzania, we see women and young people at the front lines of adapting to water scarcity, food insecurity, and displacement caused by climate-related events. So as much as these climate incidents are happening, we see so many young people stepping up to become part of the solution, and that includes myself. So I'm speaking very practically here in the organization that I am leading. For instance, in rural and peri-urban areas, organizations like the one I'm leading and communities as well are turning low-cost alternative eco briquettes to actually cope with deforestation and rising fuel prices. And as you may know, we are now running from the fossil fuel era. And there are others who are equally engaging in informal climate education through community networks, storytelling, peer learning, which actually helps them to adapt even in the absence of formal support systems. However, this coping often comes with sacrifices. Women walking longer distances to find firewood, children missing schools to fetch water. It is clear that while communities are also coping, they're bearing the brunt of inaction elsewhere. So I feel there is a huge potential of everyone stepping in, including the government themselves, to actually support such communities who are already leading change, even with the minimum and little resources that they have. And on the second part, the strategies that are actually helping to build resilience, I would still go back to, several grassroots clubs, groups, and policy level strategies that are driving resilience, because I've also personally engaged in, different policy level strategic plans with the government of Tanzania, as well as the National Youth Environment Ambassador in Tanzania. But first, I would appreciate the community-led climate action. For instance, the initiative that I mentioned, the briquette training programs that we run at Climate Hub Tanzania that actually empower women and youth to turn waste into income. You can imagine we convert paper waste into eco-friendly briquettes that Tanzanian communities actually use, reducing both environmental pressure and economic vulnerability. But I would say climate education, that is also mentioned by some previous speakers, that spreading the word, the awareness on climate change, building climate literacy is actually very powerful, and it has proven being powerful. And at Climate Hub Tanzania, we also run climate education fellowships that mainly incubate young people into a series of programs to actually help them become positive agents of change. But also the other strategy is partnership with local government and traditional leaders, and this is just to appreciate that the engagement of stakeholders from the beginning will help ensure that climate solutions are not only relevant but sustainable. And I would say regional platforms, youth platforms specifically, we're having the cross-border platforms that we're having on climate change. I have previously worked as the Southern African Climate Change Youth Envoy, representing young people from 16 countries of the southern part of Africa. So I really appreciate how the youth platforms has supported us. But I would say this call here today, this is an example of a platform, an intergenerational, interregional platform that actually supports us to come together, share experiences in the challenges that we're facing, climate resilience, how are we building resilience at the moment. So that's actually very important to me. And just a few points on the third question, that the visions that are being shaped for a more just and sustainable future. I would say we're shaping a future where justice is not an afterthought in climate policy, but it is the foundation, and this includes a just transition, ensuring that no community or worker is actually left behind as we're moving from this very important fossil fuel to green economy, but also something to do with youth leadership and climate finance access. I can totally understand that young people, especially in Africa, and now that we are narrowing the conversation in Tanzania, these young people are already leading solutions, but they need access to resources, decision-making spaces, and climate funds to actually scale their impact. Last but not least is gender-inclusive resilience. As women know, women are always bluntly and disproportionately affected by impacts of climate change. So our vision must center their leadership, knowledge systems, and also economic empowerment. And lastly is data justice and community mapping. At Climate Hub Tanzania, alongside other partners, we have developed the Climate Justice Map initiative that actually visualizes environmental injustices and help prioritize local needs. It's a tool that actually maps climate organizations, those that are working in the field of climate justice and just transition, to help them actually access funding. So I'll say the vision is of one dignity, where climate action uplifts livelihoods, but also respects indigenous and local knowledge. And this will actually bridge the gap between survival and sustainability. Thank you so much.
Girl, you hit it. Bridging the gap between survival and sustainability. Absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you so much, Laurel. Well put. And I don't want to miss you, Nana. I want to really quick point to Carrie, because she has to go shortly. Carrie, if you don't mind sharing response to anything anyone says, or if you want to present some responses for the questions that we're discussing tonight, and then we'll roll it over to you, Nana Abena. And then Tiara, I didn't miss you also.
For sure. Thank you, Amber and Lynn and Kimberly, for hosting this webinar. I think just the solution of having a webinar like this is an example of how to build strategies that strengthen resilience in community. And so something that I'm really still trying to figure out is how to really streamline and optimize resources in this space in our region. So the Greater Baltimore Climate Initiative, which I'm the founder of and have a host committee for, focuses really on that. It aligns mostly with the UN Sustainability Goal 17, building partnerships and strengthening the means for executing the work that we need to execute in order to build resilience. So the Greater Baltimore Climate Initiative is really a grassroots initiative started by professionals at Morgan State University, which is an HBCU, professionals at Baltimore Green Space, which is an organization in Baltimore all about conservation and preserving green spaces in the, concrete jungle, as Ms. Owens mentioned earlier. The HBCU Environmental Justice Technical Collaborative, and a bunch more organizations that saw a need for a bunch of different things. And last year, as we all know, was what a lot of people would call the golden era for environmental justice. There was an influx of funding in the United States, or more funding than we've seen historically from the federal government. And so what we were hoping to do was build a strategy that would help organizations in the region be ready to capture funding in a more efficient way. Because we saw states like California ahead of the curve, ready to apply for funding, ready to capture funding, ready to build partnerships. And so we thought that we could make a difference in the region's readiness to capture funding. But as we know, the landscape in the United States is a lot different than what it was last year. And so when we think about optimizing the economic impact around these issues, and particularly for marginalized communities, we're not thinking in terms of capturing new funding or optimizing the ability to capture new funding. We're currently thinking about how do we optimize existing resources and position ourselves to capture what funding is still. So again, in the current landscape, not as much funding out there as there was 12 months ago. And so how do we, factor that variable into our methods is something that we're still figuring out. What I will say is that we've been really good at creating a platform that, speaks to the issues that exist in the region. We've also been really good at figuring out what community members and players in the climate space are interested in solutioning. And so when I say that, what I mean is every event that we have, we will, community members or participants, registrants for the events, what is it that you're interested in learning about at this event? So we leverage that information to create the program, draft the questions, create the scripts. And so it's a real community engaged grassroots initiative to prioritize, discuss, talk about, build momentum and solutions around what's actually important to people and not what we think or what other people would think is important. And it's been working. That's why I was really interested in what Ms. Owens was talking about earlier, because in this space, because Baltimore has a lot of other priorities when you think about government leadership, or even when you think about the state of Maryland having other priorities, how do we build momentum around this issue? And how do we tell people or frame it in a way, because people already know, but just connecting the dots, and my background isn't in environmental science or climate science, it's in economics. And so a lot of stuff goes over my head when people are talking. And so I know how it feels for someone to be talking about all this sciencey stuff. And I'm like, okay, so what's it got to do with me again? And so I think that's a unique perspective as well, where it's okay, what do people really care about? And how do we let them know that they actually do care about this? But, framing the language again in a way where it connects rather than just kind of okay, moving on. So that's a little bit about the work that we've been doing since last year, coming up on a year now in Baltimore. I see Dr. David A. Paget was on earlier. He's still on. He is one of my mentors. He's a mentor who's got me engaged and involved in the environmental justice movement nationally, and that's the work that I've been doing with him and a bunch of other PhDs over the last 4 or 5 years. And so coming in and honing specifically in on Baltimore is something that is new to me, but I'm really excited about, seeing how I can help make a difference.
Indeed. And we love Dr. Paget. He is one of the board members for Baltimore Green Justice Workers Cooperative. So indeed, indeed.
Beautifully presented, Carrie. And likewise, a lot of this stuff, the terminology, I see that someone dropped, Imani, welcome. Good to see you back. Document in the chat, guys. Make sure you grab that and download it, because a lot of the terminology, the language that's used in this space can go over our heads. Imagine everyday people like myself who are not even aware all the time about, what categorizes as climate change or environmental injustice. And depending on your audience, depending on your geographical location, a lot of these words can be used interchangeably, and sometimes they might mean something totally different. I don't know if any of the guys or ladies in Tanzania can vouch for that. But Nana, I'd like to first say thank you again, Carrie. Lots of spinoffs there that we can go with in future conversations. And I do agree, these dialogues are part of the solution. Nana, jump in there, and then please let's hear from you, Tiara.
Thanks again, Lynn and Amber, for being a part of the solution. I am the chairperson for the 6th Region African Diaspora Alliance in Tanzania. It's a community service CSO that helps those that want to move from the diaspora back to the continent, and specifically Tanzania. We help in that. And when you do get here and settle, we hope that we can encourage those who have repatriated to participate in community service activities. And one of them is our, I would say, Safi Day event, which is the beautification and cleaning up of our communities. We recently celebrated Earth Day with massive beach cleanup with some other organizations. We came together, a couple of the embassies, and sent their representatives to the event. We also included a school that is in the area. So we had a lot of the students come out and clean up, I would say maybe about 5 miles of beach front. Now and also one of the things we do also do in addition to cleaning up, we also have started to do tree planting activities. So Tanzania does have a reforestation initiative, and we've been participating in that, mostly in Arusha, to plant trees in different areas of the city in partnership with the mayor's office and the city council of Arusha. And so we're doing things are being done on the ground, but it's not as widespread as it need to be in order to have an impact. Yes, the children come out and they do clean up, participate with us, the adults. When you speak to a few of them, they do understand what this is about and the impact it does have on their lives, but that's a few. And so one of the things that I've been mentioning every time I get a chance to speak is that governments, including Tanzania government, need to launch a campaign, public awareness campaign. They can put an ad, public service announcements on the ad several times a day to encourage people not to litter, to encourage people to dispose of their garbage properly, to participate in cleanups in their neighborhood. Because, and I just interject something here. Our organization, we do the beach cleanup the last Saturday of every single month, unless there's some extenuating circumstances to make us not do that. And we do not have enough participation from the local community. We have people in the neighborhood that will be jogging on the beach, walk by us, see what we're doing, and just look at us as they're weird, or they're the foreigners. And so it in general, it appears that it's something outside of them and it's foreign to them. But when you do talk to the fishermen, they tell you that their catch is lower, that the size of the fish, the amount that they're catching, is being impacted by the garbage that has ended up in the water, in their nets, what they're bringing up. So you're finding more garbage being collected, washed ashore. And so we know that it's impacting them. Now, one of the things we wanted to do is to use some of the things that we're collecting from the beach that can be recycled, there's artists on the call that can create different, what do you call it? Art things, for one of a better term. But I've seen where they've repurposed wood, metal that's being collected, and create art pieces out of that and sell that. There's so many other things that can be done, but it's disjointed in terms of those who are on the ground doing the work, and the larger community, and the government. At government level, they're participating in this. Look at the reforestation program, that national program that Tanzania has going. But yet, it's several steps for us to go and get the trees from where they have the trees, which is available for free to anyone that wants to participate. But it's a several step to do that. So there is still this empty space or holes between all of the different areas of the community, or as they would call it, stakeholders in the community. And I think it should not take a lot to fill those gaps and to fill those spaces, and to have small organizations are doing to have a larger impact. Because we're planting trees, but yes, trees are still being cut. We're planting trees and we don't have the community support to take care of them until they the seedlings, until they become trees, And as far as fuel, alternative fuel, there is still gaps. Tanzania has a program where it will replace charcoal stove with another form. But does people really have access to that? And is there a cost? How can you get into the communities outside of the cities and reach these people who are still operating the way they used to operate hundreds of years ago? So that, as far as just one last comment, as far as the topic of today, people are, whatever they're doing to help themselves to still get on with business, it's not, so I don't see the support of the local government, the regional government, as is needed. And you still have grassroots people on the ground, like the fishermen, that just cannot connect to this other side of it, to say, participate in cleaning up, use some of what we're picking up, recycle, repurpose them, because then when you don't have a big catch, selling some of these things can connect. We've opened up our office for training and workshops on how to recycle several different things. But again, the support of the local government and really reaching the local community, there's still a lot of work to be done there. And I'll stop there. Thank you very much for this opportunity again. And I really hope that we can get much more done on the ground now that we are connecting. You guys know what we're doing. We know what you guys are doing. And, a lot of it involves funding. I'll just say that. And then the people who know and that can do to participation from them. So I really think in a nutshell, that's some of the things that could really move this work along. Okay, thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you, Nana Abner. Your heart is felt. And I know this has been a message that's been very consistent since I've known you guys to be doing this work. And please, before we wrap up, I definitely want to hear from Yashara, who works closely with you, and also, I believe, Zach as well. In the meantime, please, let's give the floor over to Tiara. I would love to hear from you and Karma as well. Thank you, Nana Abner. And if you have any questions, guys, please raise your hands, throw it in the chat. We can continue this conversation.
Good morning, everybody. Thanks, Amber. My name is Tiara. I'm a farm manager and president at Plantation Park Heights Urban Farm in Baltimore City, where we work on self-sustainability, environmental stewardship, climate justice, and so many other fancy terms that we say now for things that our grandmothers did normally. But with the thing about climate, education is the big piece because a lot of people don't know exactly what these things mean. So connecting people and incentivizing them through educational programs is very important for us. So at Plantation Park Heights, we work in different programs like aquaponics, rainwater harvesting. We also have a composting project that we're working on, and we're also the composting drop-off site for the neighborhood. And the reason why we do these things is to educate the community so that they can be closely in contact with what climate justice means to them and how it affects our health. What is COPD? You feel me? What is high blood pressure, and how does climate affect our mental health as well as our physical health as well? So
Yeah.
at Plantation Park Heights, we have a large youth workforce where we work connected with University of Maryland, Morgan State, Howard University, Coppin, UB, and attract a lot of young people through these programs, and we pay them. The most important thing, one, is the education part, but also making people feel like they're included in what you're doing as well. So, Karma, I don't know if you want to jump in and piggyback a little bit.
Yeah, sure. So if you want to
And
go
I'll
over,
walk around and like point out stuff if you want to.
yeah, I was gonna say, hi everyone again. If you wanted T to go on the other side and so I can talk about the weather station a little bit. While she goes over there, I'll just brief you guys a little bit. We did a program, which it's actually an ongoing program with Baltimore Social Environmental Collective, and they're hyphenated for BSEC. And so what we did was we gathered maybe 10 to 15 youth to teach them about what climate justice even looks like in Park Heights in the area that they're living in. And they were able to work with PhDs, PhD professors who taught them how to build this weather station that you're looking at right here. And it shows different elements like temperature, rainwater, wind speed, and many other things. Solar, like basically what direction the sun is coming from and what the sun does for us and how to keep the air clean. So yeah, we're doing this work in Park Heights.
They also
And this is in a residential neighborhood. I'm sorry, that those are houses I see there, right?
Yes. And so this that she's showing you here is where the data is collected for the weather station that we just looked at a few minutes ago. And so they're able to access that on their cell phones as well. So they can do it at any time instead of checking the weather app on their phones. They can look at what's going on in the area, if it's going to rain, how much it rained, you know, the temperature of the rain, all that good stuff on that device.
and just piggybacking off of just talking with our local politicians, city council, as well as state legislative. So getting out and active. everything don't always got to be an initiative led by an organization. We as people in our communities, we can go out and demand stuff that we want for our neighborhoods. So we're a grassroots organization. We are ran and operated by people who live in the community. Whether it is our produce giveaways, our compost trainings, those trainings are done by people who live in this neighborhood in Park Heights. And the way that they're able to do that is by training.
But she's saying
They don't have to pay for it, and then they are also incentivized. So we have a group of people who come out to train in a leadership academy, which is a 2-week program that we collab with 10 students from Morgan State and 10 youth who live in Park Heights who may be dropped out of high school or maybe looking to get their GED. Each of them, they work with Morgan State students, one, that inspires them maybe to go back to school or to get into other fields or to get back into a field of study. And then they're also awarded $1,000 stipend after they finish the programming. So, and we are not funded by the city or anything like that. We grow food and sell it out farmers markets and save. We also do hosting. We're a site that hosts events that we charge for as well. And we also write for grants with foundations and different things of that nature. But we just want to inspire communities to get out and do it themselves. You know, we don't need to have a whole bunch of people in their hand in a pot. We just need to be leaders in our neighborhoods and communities so that we can inform the people that we live next door to. Because I live in Park Heights. I live in walking distance to this farm. And it's very important for me for people to be able to be like, oh, it's super hot outside. How do I correlate this to my breathing? You know, or being able to plant a whole bunch of trees and create better air quality. So Plantation Park Heights has planted over 100 trees in the Park Heights neighborhood, as well as fruit and different canopy trees. And we also work with youth in the neighborhood to install community gardens throughout Park Heights. So it's you just have to have a connection with the youth and a real one that makes them really interested in what you're doing. So the youth here, they lead and then they take the knowledge back home to their grandparents. Then their grandparents come here on Thursdays and line up and get fresh produce. Some of them are touring and just hanging out. We have a lot of our seniors who run the fresh produce box giveaway, as well as on days like this, people come and pick up compost. We make our own compost and we give it out to people in our neighborhood for free, just to educate them on soil health and nutrients. And then planting trees, erosion, and how the ecosystem is a cycle. It's a circle. It's a currency. So what we do in Baltimore affects what's happening in Tanzania. And how do we educate students on this? We take them to Trinidad. We took a group of children to Puerto Rico to learn about agriculture and environmental awareness, supporting them with getting passports, supporting their parents. It takes a village. So getting out of the mindset of single and looking at things as collective.
Absolutely. They call it here is Hupo Pamoja. We are in this together. Am I right, y'all? Am I getting my Swahili right? Tupo Pamoja? Tuko Pamoja. I'll type it in the chat. Karma?
Oh, I was just gonna kind of push T to talk a little bit about how climate should be led by farmers.
Mm-hmm.
Mm.
Come on now.
You want to talk about it, T?
I can say a little bit and you can spin it. Climate should be led by farmers because we are not fighting for climate. Farmers are environmental stewards. We work with the environment. We're like brothers and sisters. So we're not trying to fight against it. We're trying to create a symbiotic relationship. Go ahead, Carmen.
Yeah. I think it also is good to, one, get to know your farmer so that you have the direct exposure and just experience on, you know, exactly what's going on the front line, on the ground. And we also have a deeper connection to the land. So it's a little easier to get that direct information, you know, about soil health and water cycles and ecosystems and yeah, all that good stuff.
And teaching young people that agriculture is life, whether you want to get in skincare products, whether you want to be environmental justice, whether you want to be a clothes designer, whether you want to grow cannabis and sell weed. Cannabis is life. Agriculture is life. you got to get out here and really represent for our ancestors and our culture because we've been doing this. It's not new to us. It's true to us. So allowing young people in Baltimore City to tap back into the DNA and correlating the issues like, why your grandmama got gout? Why we got cancer? What's asthma? Feel me? What is the asthma attack? How do you temperature and climate affect this in food? So it's an amazing project. I would love for Lynn to see if we could bring a few people out here, you feel me, just to see what's going on. But we do
Wait, I think she's starting stuff, y'all. I think what she's trying to do is get a group of us from Dar es Salaam to come to Baltimore and a group from Baltimore to come over to Dar es Salaam. I think she's
That's
starting.
a good
long-term
idea.
vision, y'all. That's
That's
the
an excellent
long-term
idea. I'm
vision.
ready.
That's the long-term vision.
Hey, I'm ready.
got y'all. We
Got my passport. I'm ready, baby.
well, not only
Hey,
that,
Solomon,
I got one
Zach,
more.
y'all get your bags ready. We going to Baltimore
Yo,
soon.
we're
But no,
ready. We're ready.
but
Yo,
in all seriousness, that's part of the greater vision. Go ahead.
this is our community produce giveaway that we do every Thursday. And we also have some of our amazing Johns Hopkins students out here. But we give away fresh produce that we grow as well as herbs. We do site tours and then just build community. So talk to a lot of our seniors and see what they want us to grow, see what they want to see in the neighborhood. A lot of them are interested in learning about this new thing called urban agriculture, growing and planting, and how this connects us to other places in the world. You feel me?
Hey, Tiara, do you guys teach and train
Yes,
other
ma'am.
organizations?
Yes, ma'am. We surely did.
How do a person sign up?
Send us an email at plantationparkhouse@gmail.com or come to our monthly community meetings, which are on the first Thursday of every month.
Okay.
If
And
you
Monica,
can,
that was one of the reasons why we have pulled them in to B3C so that they could actually provide this type of training for community-based organizations in Baltimore who wanted to learn how to do the agribusiness.
Yeah, for sure. Okay. This is wonderful.
Here. She had a question. I think.
Carrie Boo.
Look, y'all on fire this morning. I was just going to say that, the educational piece is very, very important because I have met children before who didn't know how or where their fruit came from. They just think you go to the grocery store and, it just pops up, or they have never seen a cow or, chickens and things of that nature. So it's very important, for the youth to be involved to understand about agriculture and how and where fruit and vegetables grow. They don't just end up in the grocery store, and it's even better when you can grow it in your own community. And I heard somebody say earlier, I think it might have been Tierra, talking about, we've been sustainable, right? I remember my grandmother always had a garden. My dad, I grew up right across the street from Morgan State University. We had a garden in our backyard. I'm not a really good gardener, but I plan to be because I'm going to be hanging with y'all. Right. Yep. So I keep telling, I say this to Lynn all the time and she just be laughing. I said, I'm getting ready for the apocalypse. Right. So I'm going to have my own fruit, my own vegetables right in my own backyard. So I don't have to worry about nothing, going to the grocery store, none of that. So this is very good and refreshing conversation. And Tierra, I know me and you have a conversation later on today, so we can talk a little bit further about that.
I also wanted to also add that, just encouraging the young people. We work in proactive healthcare. So we want to prepare a better aging adult of the future. Aging is mental, physical, and that has a lot to do with the environment. You feel me? And that we can manifest what we want to see in our own neighborhoods. A lot of the times, the young people don't even know that they can say, this is what we want here. We don't want this here. So taking back our power in our communities is very important in the education piece. And secondly, making sure that young people know that them peppers in the store are not as good as the peppers that you could be growing in your own backyard, that you could be saving money doing as well, or creating a new business opportunity by selling the peppers. And thirdly, I want to say my kids at Plantation Park Heights in this neighborhood, we bougie about food. They don't even want McDonald's or none of that no more. When you first bring them little lunches, they like, Miss T, where's the salads at? This food is not healthy. So We do a chef program in the summer. We do a composting program in the summertime to inspire young people to do what a lot of us have set the torch down. I want them to pick the torch up of the ancestors and the people who out here still doing the work and run with it so that we ain't in a period where we stagnant. You feel me?
Absolutely wonderful. Yes, absolutely. Jasmine, I know you've got to go. Would you like to hop on, say hi, share a thought or two?
Yeah, this is awesome. Thanks for having me here. I'm so glad that Dr. Joanne Martin at the National Great Blacks and Wax Museum told me about this connection with Tanzania. I'll actually be in Tanzania and Zanzibar this summer on a Fulbright fellowship around climate change and creativity. The goal is to learn from Africa what we could be doing differently here, but y'all already doing it, so I'm excited to just learn from what your connection is and to be a support. I'll drop my email in the chat, but I run the Center for Social Concern at Hopkins. So a lot of our students are placed in, we've worked with Baltimore Green Space for a long time, actually. There's a historical relationship. So I'm looking forward to how we continue to foster that relationship and make sure that Hopkins is a support, not a savior, not giving back, but like working in tangent and learning from and with the community. And the last thing that I'll just say is that there's a whole academic discipline called planetary health that is developing, and the whole goal of that is to build the connections between sustainability and climate and public health. And I keep saying to these people, Africa's been doing it. Black communities have been doing it, but it's like a void where they're like, oh, this is something that we're discovering. Like, y'all don't be colonial. The thing is, it's at the beginning of the growth of the field. And that is a really rich way to assert this kind of work now. It's like 10 years as a discipline, but we've been doing this for centuries. So I'll drop that link in as well. And I think that one of our sisters from Tanzania earlier said that she was involved in some of the UN's work. I just want to drop in the link for the Permanent Forum on People of African Descent. I'm sure that many here are already aware, but just in case you're not, it's a great network to tap into. They have a civil society work group, and they alternate between like Geneva, Switzerland, and New York City for the large conferences that are bringing us all together. So thank y'all for having me here. Just sending lots of love. Look forward to meeting many of you in person on this side, on the other side. And thank you for having me here.
Carrie Boo, when you get to Tanzania, we'll link up. We'll go have some coffee at Harakati.
Okay, love it. The group I'm coming with is called Tuko Pamoja. So I'm learning. I'll be getting my Swahili together soon. Yeah.
Yes. And we've got a Swahili teacher somewhere in the room. I think Yashara also. He's a Swahili instructor. So, Yashara, jump right on in. Jasmine, thank you. Some of the guys, we want to hear from you, Zach. How you guys doing over there? We're answering these 3 questions today, and we're also spinning off from anything you've heard so far. Please, the floor is open.
Hello, Amba.
Hi, greetings, Caribou.
Yes, thank you so much. I'm so happy just to see how different folks are appearing in this great platform. So just to add up on what my fellow colleague here in Dar es Salaam, Tanzania has shared so far, I just want to add on the resilience part, which actually our organization, Asante Africa Foundation, is doing in investing youth-led solutions through school-based clubs and partnership with organizations like we have Trust International from UK. We are promoting awareness around green economy and equipping young people with knowledge and tools to lead change. Using we have a model, we call it Learn, Do, Teach model, that ensures the learning is followed by meaningful action and that take action ripples outward through peer teaching and community engagement. We're also creating spaces for forward thinking, such as Youth Summit, that brings together young innovators whose businesses ideas align with environmental sustainability. And these gatherings are more than events because they are like incubators of new vision. So it's one where we believe that justice, sustainability, and opportunities are not ideas, but it's lived realities. In shaping this future, we believe in a power of informed, inspired, and equip the youth to lead the way. Because when young people rise with vision and purpose, the path to more just and sustainable world becomes not only possible, but we believe it becomes inevitable. Thank you. That's what I thought I would share.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Loiben. Great to have you back. I put the link for Asante Africa in the chat. Guys, please drop your contact information, especially if you do have to leave. We would like to keep this going. Anyone else on the Tanzanian Dar es Salaam side? Zach, would you like to jump on in there? Welcome. Grayson, jump on in there. Welcome. Unmute yourselves and tell us what are some adverse effects that you've been aware of in your community, and how are you building solutions towards that? Go ahead, Grayson. I see you.
Okay. So for my side, I think I want to do something for my talent to give some people education how the beautiful things and natural, like a tree and ocean, like I want to like take some kid in the street and to take maybe some move of dancing and to shoot some video in a natural place and to explain to her how the beautiful we are and protect our street.
Very good. Can you tell us a little bit? I'm going to go back to Grayson's thing here, guys, if I share my screen at the same time. Because the reason why is I've been so inspired by a lot of his creative artistry, and even his IG page, which is wonderful. It still doesn't capture the fullness of his work. I see images. And by the way, Solomon is the photographer, guys, on these images. Solomon, wave your hand. They work together. These are brothers for sure. And, the irony of the beauty behind this artwork that I see is knowing, just in the lens, in the backdrop of what Nana Abeno was presenting about the beach cleanup. This is one of the many beaches that are so beautiful. You see how the camera captures the shore here, don't you? You see how all of the elements, nature, Africa at its core, all the beauty here, but the story behind what happens in these waters, and the loitering, the littering, and the injustices in the environment, in the name of development and tourism and hospitality and all of that, and what local residents have to live with and deal with as adverse effects. You heard about the fishermen not being able to catch fish. They go out and we see them on a regular. I can go right out here and walk out here and see early in the morning casting their nets, sitting out there at the right time when the tide is right, when the weather is right, whatever other aspects. But imagine that for, every day, on a day, that's your way of getting your meal. Cooper, Monica, you were talking about, or someone was talking about the kids not wanting McDonald's anymore. Imagine having to go and literally get your food in that way, having to go fish for it once or twice a week, 3 times a week or whatever, and you're pulling in trash instead. Go to the grocery stores in Baltimore and Maryland and Washington, D.C., and you go into and get your cart and push it down the aisles, and all you see is trash. Imagine something like that. And so how these images speak to me, witnessing the beauty of all of nature, in a lot of his artistry and a lot of artists here, and still the anomaly of the stories that are not being told on a wider scope of I guess, conversation or in public forums. Tanzania's landscape is absolutely beautiful, and so is Baltimore's. Absolutely beautiful. And I can see how art can tell the story. Grayson, can you share a little bit about how maybe answer this question? Do you use art to express certain aspects of day-to-day living as far as these injustices? Or do you see how artistry can be used in this way to incentivize, to encourage, to educate? How can you use dance or photography or this type of skill set or talent to leverage the youth or your peers?
Okay, so first and first, dance is a language, like a language. So I can talk to people with my dance without talk, just make some move and create some like a occasion like that one. So like this video, I will talk like from pain, you know. I will talk like find a little bit like my girlfriend, she left me and I feel some pain like to me anytime. So that's why I was trying to show my feeling of the ocean. Like it was the morning. So yeah, sure. That's the language, and I can teach so many people. So like so many languages, like happiness language and painful sometimes, and happiness too. Yeah, so can do that.
Yeah, and the connection I want to make with that, I think that's awesome to note, guys, because just as Tiara, you were talking about the many pathologies surrounded around this. I know that this is a culture. I will say this, that we as Black American, Black Caribbean, in the diaspora are very expressive, when we need to be, when we want to be, right? Sometimes in different cultures, from what I'm experiencing here in Dar es Salaam, is not so much the case, right? And so having a way out to express your emotions and things like that, because suppressing it also, causes a lot of problems. That's a whole nother conversation, but still deeply, deeply tied into the injustices of the environment and the sake of all the development that's happening in Tanzania. So thank you so much, Grayson, for offering us another way to build resilience and build solutions. Anyone else want to jump in?
Certainly. Good morning. This is Dr. David A. Paget, Associate Professor of Earth Science and GIS at Tennessee State University in Nashville, Tennessee. I was born and raised in Baltimore. My parents still live there, thank God. Great, blessed to still have them with me in their late 80s. So I'm in Baltimore all the time because they're in their late 80s and kind of need I'm an only child, so I'm it. No other siblings to come help out. But yeah, I've just been listening in. Speaking to my mother, she said you were born with God gave you two ears and one mouth for a reason. Sometimes it's just better to just listen. I've heard some, amazing things about from everyone, including always great to hear things happening in my hometown. One of the things that I am doing at Tennessee State University that is related to this space is I'm a trainer and partner for the GLOBE program. That's Global Learning and Observations to Benefit the Environment. It's a primarily sponsored by NASA, but it's also sponsored by the State Department and NOAA. And it's literally a worldwide program that has at its heart or main objective to improve science education, specifically environmental science education, at the K through 16 level. And so I teach educators. We're getting away from the word teacher because teacher kind of has a connotation of formal education, teachers with licenses and all of that. And now we say educators because anybody can be an educator. My grandmother, who had a high school diploma, was an amazing educator. And so we work in both the formal and informal space, using hands-on scientific inquiry to get kids to learn more about earth science and earth system science. And personally, and being at a historically Black college and university, my mission is to use GLOBE to close the racial achievement gap in science, technology, engineering, and math. And so we have to, start early with kids, especially young women and girls, to get them to persist through science and technology and math fields. And so one of the things that we launched last year is the Pan-African Globe Project. So again, there are more than 40,000 Globe schools all over the world with Globe educators. And partnering with the HBCU Green Fund, we're starting in Senegal and Ghana, and we want to, there are already Globe countries and Globe schools in Africa right now, but we really want to expand that. The numbers of Globe schools and educators in Africa compared to other parts of the world is not the same, but we're working to change that. We've already placed some weather stations in schools in Ghana. We have more of that to come. We're going to place particulate matter 2.5 sensors, and actually have children in schools from a very early age have hands-on experience in air sampling, water sampling, and yes, I haven't seen that myself. Thanks for sharing that. Yeah, that's exactly it. Wow, where'd you find that? So yeah, that's our initiative. And it's amazing that I mean, I don't have any children myself, so I'm always amazed that kids today, how quickly they learn and grasp this technology. And I think someone mentioned earlier that sometimes kids are not interested in science. And that's true, because sometimes there's not a lot of support coming from families. But we find that there's a sweet spot when kids are in the third, fourth, and fifth grade, and they don't care that their friends know that they want to be a scientist. They don't feel like a geek or a nerd. It's not till they get into 12, 13 and start getting cliquish. But if we can get them right there, when they're not trying to be cool, when they're not trying to be popular, and just kind of say, hey, it's okay to be a scientist. And just to hammer home a point of need for this, and in spite of whatever, I don't want to say our government, but I guess it is. I mean, fortunately, take it or leave it. But there are some disparities. So, for instance, only 4% of medical doctors are African American in this country, in the United States, and only 1% of medical doctors are African American females. And that leads directly to health disparities, especially when we talk about maternal mortality for African American women. That is directly associated with the fact that we do not have a proportionate number of African American female physicians. I think Spike Lee's wife made an amazing documentary called Aftershock, specifically about that tragic event. And it's interesting because the movie speaks from the perspective of the widowers, the men who are left behind. And I can't, I don't have any kids myself. I can't imagine looking forward to the happiest day of your life with the love of your life. And then you, of course, in many cases, the baby survives, but then you lose the wife. And the cause of it is because there's this stereotype of, Black women being Black women are strong, but, everybody's human. And we have to listen to everybody when they say they're in pain. And a lot of times, a lot of women, like including Serena Williams, said, hey, I don't feel right after having this baby. Maybe you need to check this out. Oh, you'll be all right. We've seen you carry, 10 cases of bottled water on your head. You go on home, be all right. And luckily, a lot of these women wound up passing away a week after giving birth, 2 weeks after giving birth, completely preventable. And so, medicine is not that we're trying to drive all young Black kids into medicine, but it's a very STEM science-based discipline that takes a lot of persistence. And so anyway, but Pan-Afro Globe, getting kids all over the world, and specifically educators all over the world, because all the research shows that if you put a Black teacher in front of Black kids teaching science, there's a much greater chance that they're going to stay in the science fields. So thanks for letting me share. I wasn't expecting to say anything. I was enjoying the learning about what everybody else is doing. So just wonderful to hear what everybody else.
Absolutely. Wonderful. You said so much there, so much. I think that we definitely need a separate conversation just on the health disparities and making a lot of the correlation between some of the diagnoses in our communities and things that are rampant, such as, even just outside of diet, I'm talking about environmental, things and how how much they are directly linked to fertility and reproductive health for the women and the men as well in a lot of our communities. So thank you so much for adding that very important piece. I see your hand, Tiara. Before we circle back to you, I want to give it back to Zach. You had something you wanted to say before David Paget jumped in. Please, the floor is yours. And then Tiara, don't lose that thought. Welcome, Zach.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for this. I have been here since we started. It is a very good hot discussion concerning about the climate change. I would like to thank you, the chair lady of this dialogue, and all members who have contributed their opinions, their views. You have demonstrate here some of the issues and the activities which have been done by the members from different areas, Dar es Salaam and also outside Tanzania. So on my side, I want to contribute that as we know that, for example, Dar es Salaam is the most populated region in Tanzania, almost has more than 6 to 7 million people approximately. And according to 2022 National Population Census, most of the population members are youth and kids and under 35 years old. And in relation to our topic of discussion, I think we should start at the household level or at the family level to impact the culture or the spirit of first to know the negative impacts or effects of not or conserve or preserve our surrounding environment. And we can use different approaches. We can use social medias. We can use at the family level meeting or family level, or maybe sometimes we can use outing to discuss issues about the climate change, because most of the people in the city, they used to go out, they just enjoy in the hotels or the ocean, the sea, and others, but they forget to impact that spirit to the youth and to the kids at the low level. So when we impact that through teaching, through demonstration, like here we have tried to demonstrate, and that is a very good example. So we can use it at the school, primary school level, nursery level, secondary level, and at the universities or colleges. The instructor, lecturers, teachers, they can have a short session which speaks about the climate change, not only theoretical but practical. They can show on how they can impact to the community, to the city, and generally to the country of Tanzania and others who are outside Tanzania. Because nowadays, as we know that, according to the statistics, show that most of the Tanzania, for example, in East Africa, Tanzanians are the leading people to use social media. I don't know in Africa. So we can use social media, we can use sometimes even drama and series, because most of the series, songs, and arts only speak about love, speak about politics, speaks about uh, other issues which are good, but we can use that art and play and sometimes advertise uh, through innovations and inventions to impact that spirit, the community, starting at the Dar es Salaam, then to the other region in Tanzania. So through doing that, we can have a educated community, or the community which have awareness about the climate change. Practically, we can have that. So through that, it will help to reduce the consequence or the impact of the climate change in the city of Dar es Salaam and other regions and outside Tanzania.
Wonderful. I think that is so awesome. The 3 points that you made, it may, I know for sure, I agree with you as far as social media being a big tool here in Tanzania. You want to promote a business, get on IG. You want to connect with, this is a great tool that I was able to use outside of the personal relationships that I'm building here, is to identify people like Laurel, who had to leave, Laurel Kivuyu, is because of social media, I was able to find about Climate Hub TZ in Asante, Africa. And also for you, Zakayo, I met you through Nana Abena, but doing things practically on a primary, nursery, secondary, university levels here, I can see how that can be impactful. Someone else, I think that's been a common theme tonight, is with the children and also impacting in the schools as well. I don't know if you guys know or heard of Tony Evans. He was a pastor in Dallas, and he had an initiative called Adopt a School, right, under the Urban Alternative. And that was kind of his method, was to train like, for example, church leaders and laymen on how to adopt a school, because the idea was, if you can impact the students, right, and address some of the adversity that they're facing, in turn, it will trickle down and again help the family in all. So I think that absolutely focusing on the youth and in educational spaces is a great, great, great place to keep reinforcing. And of course, the arts, y'all. Baltimore, is it not an art district? Dar es Salaam, is it not an art district? Come on, y'all, Dar people, support me here. When I say walk in the streets of Dar es Salaam and walk in the streets of Baltimore City, you would not know that you were in a different place unless other than the weather. Because I'm not talking about the national museums and stuff. I'm talking about street art. I'm talking about local people art. I'm talking about, the artists, the crochet dressmakers, the hairstylists, the dancers on the street. Okay, Lynn, I know you see them on the way. I know being in the DC area, going to work on the train, you're seeing the buckets, the guys with the buckets, doing their thing. You go out there to the harbor, you see the guys out there in the buckets doing their thing, making their music. Same thing here, right? And so I think that a lot of these are areas and outlets to practically and strategically, like a serpent, what is it? Wise as a serpent, innocent as a dove, in ways of getting this information out, getting this education, and raising the awareness through these creative avenues. Thank you so much, Zakayo. You've added a lot to our conversation today in reinforcing those points, and we want to keep it going. Tierra, please jump in, and anyone else, get ready. We've got still some time left, but I want to make sure we hear from everyone. Tierra, jump in, please.
I just wanted to say thanks to Zach. I think a major way for us to connect with young people has been social media, and it has been such a big impact on our business, and not just young people in Baltimore City or Maryland or even America, but globally. Um, I wanted to thank the brother who talked about, Black young people needing to actually go into medicine and to make sure that, we're protected, as women and men, with different medical reasons and with giving birth. I wanted to maybe invite everybody or point this out to Lynn, and you too, Tara. We are part of something called the Future Global Alliance, which is a collaboration with University of Maryland, and we work in close connection with Israel. The Global Future Alliance has stations, offices in each place, which is Israel, Nepal, Tanzania, and Baltimore City. So maybe this could be an outlet for us to be able to travel or bring the people from Tanzania to Baltimore City so that we can, work closely together and also see what's going on in Israel and Nepal, you feel me, around climate and what are their young people and the communities actually on the ground, not the leadership, saying about, what's going on. So again, that's the Future Global Alliance. I can shoot everybody the link, and then we could talk more in depth about that for all of us to join, so that we could connect and maybe get some funding behind those travel expenses.
Let's talk about it. Absolutely,
Yeah,
I love
yeah.
that.
And
That-
I just want to say thank you to everybody. This has been amazing. And I can't wait to connect again.
Can you drop that link for us in the chat, please? The Future Global Alliance. Absolutely. Anyone else? Thank you so much. We're sharing resources. We're sharing solutions. Let me drop our 3 questions back in the chat so we have our focus, but this is good stuff happening. Who haven't we heard from? Anyone else want to jump on in?
I was I
Wonderful.
was I was just sitting here thinking when you said when you talked about Amber the adopt a school project. I think that would be something amazing for us to do because you all know the kind of climate that we're living here with defunding education and all this other kind of foolishness that's going on. But, when we take things into our own hands, and being creative, adopting a school or starting our own school or whatever it looks like. I know Lynn's sister Dion is looking to start a school. So just being creative and thinking out of the box, right? And not thinking so much that, like, I think Tierra said this as well, as we can do things on our own. We don't always need other, I guess you say, I call them politicians to do stuff that we can continue to do for ourselves.
Sorry, guys. Thank you so much. Well said, Ms. Kim. I'm just sharing this really quickly to show you so you can see the model or how he has it set up. I've done the training before, and pretty much, what they do is they assess. I remember hearing, I think it was Sister Carrie earlier, someone was talking about, or maybe it was Selena, asking, instead of thinking, how to address a particular issue in a community, is asking the people first, right? And assessing. And then based on that, trying to see what resources you have as you are, even outside of funding. I know, Lynn, in the first conversation, you mentioned about, getting to a place where we don't need grants because we're pooling from our own resources, right? And so getting to the point where you can create. So for example, Adopt a School, what they did was they realized, okay, a lot of the kids, based on what the staff would say, didn't have coats during the winter. So they started with like a coat closet in the school. That's what the adoption looked like, right? And then it grew based on the needs, and come to find out that there were a lot of parents at home who were unemployed and needed trade. Right. And so what they have, a lot of the men came in and started to teach different trades to the fathers of these children. They had food pantry. They had adult literacy classes. So really assessing and getting into the community and building relationships. And I want to just really say something really quick about that. The people, guys, we are the greatest currency that we need. The people. Building relationships with each other, with our households, with our community across borders is a big task for us as a people coming from the places we're coming from. So I'm so glad to see us connecting in this way. Thank you for dropping all of your contact. Anything else?
Yeah, so again, I've had a lot of technical difficulties this time, but so I haven't been able to keep up exactly with everything that was mentioned. But as you all know, which was probably mentioned, I did work with the fishermen here for some years, and I still do every now and then. And we do see the problems there on the beach, and it's actually disheartening to see the amount of trash sometimes that will be in the nets and that'll be on the beach. And the thing is, the people, the way they're dealing with it, they're not really doing anything in a lot of ways. I can say you have people like Nana Abena, and some other small little groups that are actually making things happen, like getting boots on the ground, as you say. But in general, there's a lot of apathy in the situation. And I know some of you all mentioned about educating through like art programs and different methods like that, and also targeting the children. I think that that's actually the best way to do it here, because was it a few weeks ago, AHRN had a community beach cleanup here in M.A.T.C.H. That's where we are, Dar es Salaam. And it was about maybe 300 or 400 people that showed up, right? And most of the people were actually school children, right? So I don't know exactly what, how the information was communicated to the children that they should come, but it was kind of amazing to see, actually. And so to get people here moving, a lot of times it's going to take a word from the government, right? And maybe some kind of compensation, like drinks or, chapati. We had chapati and drinks, and of course the music was there, right? And these are the types of things that can get people involved in this type of movement, because otherwise people are just, they don't really, especially here, I can see they're not really interested. A lot of times people are looking to say, what can I get out of it? And that's one thing I learned here in Dar, and I think that's true even in other places in the world. There are only a few people who actually have that spirit to say, this is my responsibility, right? And those are the people that really need to be targeted. But I think those are the people that maybe should organize community groups, because when other people see something, that's how it works here. That's when they want to do it. Before then, they're not really interested a lot of times. But I don't know if I said anything that anyone else had said, but those are just my thoughts on the situation. Even I myself, I was inspired by Sixth Region, what Nana is doing, Nana Abner, what she's doing here with the beach cleanup. And I actually started a small group where I'm from in Bahari Beach, or where I'm living. And that's what we do. We actually clean beaches and do things like that. So I think that's the system that can work, right? You're gonna have to make community groups, right? Those people that really care about the situation. You find those people and you get them to make organizations in their communities, and then the people in the community will see something official. They'll see it being done, and then that's when they might desire to get involved. And that's really the way it should work. I mean, that's the way I see it.
Absolutely. I think I agree based on what I've observed here. Definitely breaking this down into smaller.
And you know what? I see you moving. I can't hear what you're saying though. But
oh, okay. So this will be recorded. I don't know can everybody hear me? Is there anyone else in Tanzania who can speak to maybe the matters of what's happening at the beach and littering, and perhaps some very practical solutions around that? I don't know all of the challenges with organizing groups to clean up, or what to do with some of the trash and things like that. I know Nana has been doing this for some time now, but anyone else have any other, and not just the beach cleanup. I mean, there are so many things that I could see here. Oh my gosh, I'm looking at a gecko. I'm going to focus though. I'm going to focus. Okay. It's a gecko on the wall, y'all. Okay. That's one of the adverse effects of climate change, is when it rains for a long time beyond the season. A lot of the bugs and stuff and the little baby reptiles want to come inside the house and be inside a lot. I don't know how to build resiliency right now. But even with, for example, burning the trash, you smell a lot of the smoke in the air, and it can be every day, all day for a long time, how that affects your respiratory health, any other ideas in the Tanzania area, Dar es Salaam specifically, in the cities where you see where we need to do some work environmentally. Please jump in. In Baltimore, anything you guys want to jump in? We have some time left, and I want to make sure that we ask any questions. I'm opening the floor for anyone who has questions for one another. Any comments for what's been presented already? In the meantime, I'm going to pull up our picture gallery. Lynn, Kim, if either one of you want to jump in. I'm going to show some images about, in the meantime, Baltimore Green Justice and some of the work that they've been doing on that side, and also here in Tanzania and how we are coming to build the bridge to bring solutions. So the floor is open.
I just have a comment, not so much anything else, but I've really enjoyed this conversation and looking forward to the next one.
Indeed, and I have to, second that, your backdrop, Amber, you talked about this the last time. That bridge is really symbolic of everything that we wanted this opportunity to be, in terms of building bridges and being able to connect residents that are making a global connection for residents that are in Baltimore, Maryland, here in the United States, but that are there in Dar es Salaam, in Tanzania, as I'm learning to say, and to do it in a way where we see that although there are oceans that separate us, the issues and experiences that we're dealing with are pretty similar. Everything that you all talked about there in Tanzania and things that you've heard here in Baltimore, there's not much difference in terms of how our people, how our communities are being impacted by climate change, the adverse effects of climate change. And there aren't a lot of differences in some of the solutions that we're coming up with, and that we could, work together and we could share ideas. And that's what we're hoping will be the start of something that could result in exactly what you said, a global exchange, where we have a delegation from Tanzania that will come here to Baltimore, and we have a delegation from Baltimore that will go over there to Tanzania, and we can, begin to continue this opportunity to grow, to learn, but to also do what Farmer T and Farmer K are doing here in Baltimore, is that agri business portion of really helping us better understand how we can become self-sufficient. Yeah.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I want to go back to, you spoke about the image behind me, and that's been very intentional, because I want to get everybody a visual of what this work is even looking like as we continue to figure it out as well, right? So literally, I want to challenge everyone, whether it's this weekend or on your downtime, I want you to go on YouTube. And I just want you to plug in the words, how to build a bridge, right? Maybe over water or something like that. And you will find, even if you just went on ChatGPT and you ask, how would I go about building a bridge over a wide body of water? It's not an easy task. And it's starts with foundational work. It's, trial and error work. It's blueprint work. It's planning. It's resource gathering. It's technicalities. It's assigning the right people at the right places to build this big infrastructure to connect, two different things in different spaces, and be able to build a path of exchange, resource exchange, solution exchange, communication, and all the things. And so just like a physical bridge, this work is not going to be easy, but it's going to require every last one of us that's here in the different roles that we play. You are not less needed because you are an artist, because you are a farmer, because you are a scientist, because you are an educator, because of whatever role you have, man, woman, child, youth, senior, elder. We all we all have a role to play. So I personally just want to say thank you to everyone who has taken the time to commit to being here, whether you were here for the entire time or had to leave at some point. It speaks. And I can see that we definitely need to continue this conversation. I just want to throw one last question out before we get to wrapping this up. By a show of hands, voices, type in the chat, unmute yourself, say yay or nay. Would you guys be interested in continuing such dialogues over a space of time and place in virtual space until we figure this thing out in person? Do you see that we need to continue these conversations? Please speak up. I would like to hear from both ends.
DO.
And DO means yes. Thank you. Thank you. Anybody else? Everybody else? Why can't I see everyone? Here we go. Okay, now I can see. Show of hands. Would you guys say that this would be needed more in the future, and any particular topics? I know we had a lot of spinoff of topics here that you would like to see. Please comment in the comment section on the playback. Send me an email. Any ideas that you have coming up is Tupo Pomojo. We are in this truly together. And what I like about this space is that we live in the areas, right? We're not coming to try to find solution in places that we don't even live, or I'm gonna leave that alone. But we ain't them other folks. We ain't them people. We're really boots on the ground on both sides. So thank you very much, everyone. Final thoughts. The floor is open for some final thoughts.
Thank you. This has been amazing again. Let's continue to keep the momentum and continue to do the work in our communities to serve our mothers, fathers, cousins, uncles. And let's not make it complicated. This don't got to be something that's complicated. Our ancestors and our seniors have been doing this work for generations. So sustainability is the plastic bags that you use as shower caps. Let's not make it hard.
No, you did.
Love it.
Absolutely. Look, wait a minute. Not opening up the freezer thinking you got ice cream. Mom done bought some ice cream, or grandma done bought some ice cream, but it ain't ice cream. It's leftover food from yesterday.
We ain't going to talk about them Betty Crocker tubs. Begging butter in them.
You're like, oh, we got cookies now? Nope. You open up the tin, that's rice that I had to store and recycle the container. No, it's not cookies.
A cereal bowl, a cup, a baby bath, whatever you want it to be. We been
That's right. We are resilient people.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Any other final thoughts?
Yeah,
Well,
let me know when we building this bridge so we can get from Baltimore to Tanzania, and I'm ready for that trip.
Yes.
Okay, so what we got to do, Carmen Tier, is we got to grow food in Baltimore so we could sell it. And then when we sell it, we could use those funds to get a trip going. And on this side, what we're going to do is Grayson and Solomon, we're going to put together a talent show and sell those tickets, and we can make it happen.
Yeah.
I think that's going to happen. I feel like with us powerful women,
Yes,
we put our mouths on something, and the way that God moves in our lives and our minds and hearts, it can happen. It will happen.
it will happen. It will happen. Yes. Yes. And so let's stay connected. What I plan to do is to work with Amber and Kimberly so that we can send out a directory of participants from both the dialogue from April, along with this dialogue as well, so that we all can stay connected and continue this conversation. May it be social media, email, WhatsApp. Amber and I have lots of telephone conversations on WhatsApp, but just want to stay connected, want to get some ideas about moving forward and let's do it. I love what you said, Farmer Tier. You said, don't make it complicated. Let's just do it.
As my kids say, you already Miss T. We ready, let's go.
So just want to also just thank publicly, I've said this so often, but I just really appreciate Amber and and the support that you've provided Baltimore Green Justice Workers Cooperative and your leadership and coordinating these dialogues, and your leadership even prior to this in, helping us get connected and building and making connections and building relationship. And that's more important than anything. And so I look forward to continuing to work with you, Amber, continuing to work with others both in Tanzania and here in Baltimore, so that we can continue to build our communities in a way where we're able to sustain each other in the process. So thank you.
Yeah. Thank you. I definitely agree. And I'm very passionate to see our people become independent in our resources, independent in our solutions, and independent in our reconnecting as well. Yeah, so I'm going to leave that there. That's another spinoff that can happen when we talk about decolonizing the climate space and decolonizing the environmental issues that I am seeing here more so in Tanzania. And so I won't speak much about it on this platform, but I will say that what a time to be a part of this. So thank you so much, everyone. Everyone, have a wonderful, wonderful week. May you all be blessed as you continue to move forward as builders, as movers, as shakers, especially to the younger ones here. I mean, I'm young too, but I'm talking about the ones 30 and younger, You have a very special mantle on you moving forward for your children and their children and descendants to come. So we're in this with you, but we are here for you as well. Okay. So thank you again, everyone. If everyone could unmute and just say how we want to say goodbye in Swahili. Oh, badai, that means see you later.
Yes.
Badai.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Have a good
Kwaheri.
one.
Kwaheri.
Kwaheri.
Thank y'all.
Peace and blessings.
Thank you so much, guys. Thank you so much.